see if I can make this go live on Facebook.
Awesome. Basit, Lena. Yeah, welcome everyone. We're so happy to see you. So happy to kick off our wellness events again. We've really enjoyed these events and we're super happy to offer them for you. So really glad to have that. As we're beginning, we want to take a moment to acknowledge the traditional homelands that we're on. We're all zooming in from different areas. I'm in Anchorage, which is the homeland of my relatives, Adenaina. So I'd like to say Chinan to them for being the original stewards of this land in the past and into the future. So Chinan to them. So with that, we'd like to do some introductions. My name is Rochelle Adams. Shojrit Rochelle Adams Oji, Guchajet at Sendu Gotanisi, Juk Anchorage Guichi, Native Peoples Action Community Fund, and Chugutritukos and Indigenous Engagement Coordinator Isi. So Juk Drin Shidri Sashronja. So hi everyone, my name is Rochelle Adams. I was raised in the villages of Fort Yukon and Beaver, and I'm living here now in Anchorage on the homelands of our relatives, Adenaina, and I work for Native Peoples Action Community Fund as the Indigenous Engagement Coordinator. And I'm really happy today to see all of you all, so thank you for being here. And I'm going to hand it over to my co-host, Lena.
Hi, Dan Hazoon, Lena Benozalio Jacob Sauza, Pla Aloha, Hutzan Sadan Salet, Dayakoplisdo. My name is Lena Jacobs. My Danaka name is Benozalio. I'm originally from the village of Ruby, Pla Aloha, the place between two bluffs, but I live in Anchorage on Dena'ina land. And I live here with my husband and we're raising our 5 children. And I have the pleasure of working with Native Peoples Action and Native Peoples Action Community Fund. And we had such a positive experience hosting these wellness events in response to the pandemic and really just wanting to continue to find ways to uplift our community and bring our community together and focus on ways that we can just give ourselves the timeouts for self-care and wellness, and pause for a little bit as our work was really focused on trying to get through our busy election season. So this is our first time back and we're so excited to have you guys. And I just want to say that we really focus on promoting Indigenous well-being, founded on respect and understanding, and our wellness is grounded in our values and our traditional ways of life. And that is our intention and what we seek to uphold in this space. And we just really want to include love and respect for one another, responsibility to one another, and use this space to speak with care and hold one another up. And so we'll just set that intention for our time together and welcome our guests. Oh, sorry, back to you, Rochelle. I skipped a step.
No problem. Yeah, we're getting situated back into these wellness events and just super excited to be here again with you all. So it's a quick hour, and what it'll look like is we're welcoming all of you. We're going to turn it over to our guests in a minute. And then afterwards, if time permitting, we'll have a short Q&A with them and some discussion. But other than that, we're just going to, I'll hand it back to you, Lena, to introduce our guests.
Some of you, if you've tuned in to our previous events, may have already gotten to spend time with Yaari Walker. We're really happy to have her back to share more about her work with the Heritage Center, but also her work in our community as a healer and somebody who's really working for our collective well-being. So welcome back, Yaari. We also have Emily Edenshaw. She's the executive director at the Alaskan Native Heritage Center and also doing some really amazing work as an Indigenous scholar. They're both parents, and so they bring that perspective into their work and into the community. And I'm not going to say too much more to introduce them. I'll invite them to introduce themselves and share about ways that they're uplifting wellness in our community and also about the work that they're involved in. So do we have a specific order, Rochelle? I'm sorry, I'm not sure what was communicated about who was going first.
Yaari and Emily are going together, and Yaari needs privileges to share the screen for her presentation.
Oh, okay.
So we'll let them do their introductions together.
How do I do that, Yaari? I'm so nervous running the tech right now. This is not my strong suit. Do you have to ask me?
Opportunity.
Huh?
I said it's a great learning opportunity.
No, Kelsey was like, I'll do it. And I was like, I need to learn how to do this so I'm not so nervous every single time I get asked to do something.
Yeah, I think there's a share screen arrow. Is there an arrow by it?
Mama,
You
Mommy.
can
Mommy.
the share screen.
Multiple participants.
Okay.
Yeah, it's turning into a tutorial. Julia says she also wants to learn how.
Okay, so did that give you permission to share, Yaari? Okay.
Yes, it did. I'm going to have Emily introduce herself first.
Okay, thank you. Waka winga kenagnagiagak yupiyugak. Hello, everyone. My name is Emily Edenshaw. My Yupik name is Kenagnagiagak. I live and work on the Dena'ina lands as the executive director of the Alaskan Native Heritage Center. My grandparents are John and Cecilia Sipri, and my great-grandparents are Pearlie and Axel Johnson. My family comes from both St. Mary's and Aymaaramka, and I'm really honored to be here today and to co-present with Yaari. And so I'll turn it over to you, Yaari.
Yum si kayo vikam si dagilgay si kobuk wanga yupi ustun at kayari. Sivo kamang pingo nga Savoonga mang Aymaaramka ng kwanga dagi kao nga Sanighmelnguq ng tlu. My Yupik name is Yaari. I prefer to go by my atipik, my real name, and I was named after my great-grandmother Yaari, who gave me that name before she passed away when my mother was pregnant with me. She comes from a different clan, so the name that I carry for her is borrowed. So eventually when I pass, the name will be given back to her clan people because we come from two different clans. I'm originally from St. Lawrence Island. There's two villages, Gamble and Savoonga, and I'm from the village of Savoonga. My clan is Aymaaramka, and my subclan is Sanighmelnguq. We have 5 subclans. And my late grandparents on my father's side are Jimmie and Mabel Toolie, who helped raise me. So they were basically like my parents. And on my mother's side, the late Donald and Laura Pungowiyi. And I'm a mother, a wife, and a grandmother. And today I want to share with you the values that I was raised with by my grandparents. So I'm going to share, and we'll have a discussion on this towards the end of the talk from when Emily and I are done. Does everybody see that?
Yes.
Okay, let me figure this out. There you go. So when I was growing up, my grandparents would really instill in me the values and taught me how to practice our traditions and my role as a Yupik woman. So they're very strict with my behavior, my attitude, and how I carried myself. And one of the very important things that our Native people teach is that we have to know who we are and where we come from, meaning we have to practice our traditions and share our stories and our knowledge. And for those of us who are born and raised, especially in the village, and taught by our elders, it's our responsibility to teach our Native people who are not exposed to these kinds of values. So it's important for us to teach them about who they are and where they come from. And I want to share a quick story with you about several years ago at the Alaskan Native Heritage Center. In the mornings when we have meetings, we would bring our interns in the room, and I got up to organize the chairs, and I realized none of the interns got up to help me. And I felt disappointed, not at the interns, but myself. I was disappointed in myself. So when I was done organizing the chairs, I stood up and looked at the interns and I said, please forgive me. And they're really quiet. And I said, please forgive me for not teaching the values of our people. I know it's my duty and my responsibility to pass down the traditional values of our people.
I know it's cold.
And so for those of us who are raised by elders, you know, we have a responsibility to teach about our cultures, our values, our beliefs, and our stories. And one of the values is to share. So it's important that we do that. So remember to know who you are and where you come from, and share this knowledge with other Alaska Native people who are not exposed to this. Emily, is there anything else you want to add to it? Oh, what did I do?
Yes, Yaari, and thank you. You know, one thing I was really looking forward to this conversation is that I think between Yaari and I, you know, there's two very different lived experiences. And, you know, I've talked with Yaari about this, and a lot of people know that, you know, I didn't have the opportunity that Yaari had, being raised by her grandparents and in her community. And you know, the responsibility that she talks about, that Yaari touches on, you know, it's something that has been a really motivating factor for me to not only learn our traditional values and our cultural values, but also share with not only my kids, but, you know, understanding my role as an auntie. And one thing I want to share everyone on the call today on Facebook, you know, it's taken me years to get to the point to where I have accepted the fact that, you know, I wasn't raised in my community, and for a really long time, that was a shame that I carried. And one thing here at the Alaskan Native Heritage Center, we tell our youth, you know, this is a safe place. This is a place of healing. This is where you get to not only preserve our traditions, but to live them. And, you know, I feel very thankful today as a 37-year-old woman, educator, student, that, you know, I'm learning my traditional values every day, and I'm living them and I'm sharing them. And one thing I want everyone to know, that, you know, even though if you weren't raised in your village, or if you're raised in an urban setting, you can still find ways to practice them every day. And, you know, that shame that you're carrying, that's not yours to carry. Put it down, because that's not one of our traditional values. And that's something that Yaari and I have also talked about, you know, the fact that, you know, that person's more Native than me, or they're doing this, you know, the judgment is not one of our traditional values. And so I wanted to make sure that, you know, in my experience and what we really try to uphold here at the Heritage Center is that no matter if you're, you know, 12 months old, or if you're an elder, you know, you can live and learn your traditional values anywhere, you know, and anywhere you go here at the Heritage Center, or if you're in your community, even virtual programming, if you're able to log on and learn your language. I just want to really make sure that everybody knows that, you know, I'm a living example of that. And like I said, it's taken me a lot of work to get to the point of acceptance, but I'm very, very proud to be Yupik and Inupiaq, and to share with everyone that I'm learning every day and I'm sharing. So thank you, Yaari, for leading us with that.
Thank you for sharing that, Emily. I have to say that I'm very extremely honored and proud to be working with Emily. I was sharing with her earlier that even if her and I were raised in two different worlds, I see her practice living and working with traditional values. She's a team player. She works together with us in unity. And I feel like, and we'll talk more about that a little bit later when I talk about how all people should be equal and treated equally. So I'll share more about that a little bit later, but thank you. Always respect others and use love, for we cannot live without each other. One of the things that my grandmother always told me was, Ilasi mgnu kakluki pinekatukluku. That's exactly what that is. So one of the things that my grandfather taught me was that we are all connected one way or another. Everything is related. Everything has a spirit. Everything is alive. And one of the things that he shared with me that, and one of the most valuable connections is people to people, because people cannot survive without each other. So when my son was still in high school, when he was getting ready to get on the bus to get to school, I would remind my son, before you get off the bus, don't forget to thank the bus driver, because without the bus driver, you wouldn't be able to get from home to school or from school to home. And I would also tell him, if you eat breakfast or lunch at school, don't forget to thank the people who work in the cafeteria, because without them, you wouldn't be able to get your meal. And then if he was going to the gas station, I would say, don't forget to thank the people who work behind the cash register, because without them, you wouldn't be able to purchase whatever you're trying to purchase from the gas station. So all of us have an important role in the community. Bus drivers have an important role. Cashiers have important roles. People who stock groceries in the stores have important roles. Teachers, all of us who work in the offices, we each have an important role. And all of us, every single one of us, help make up a community. And that's why we should love each other, uplift each other, and respect each other. So that's one of the things that my grandparents were very strict about with me. They instilled in me to always use love and to always respect everybody. Emily, is there anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, that's really beautiful, Yaari. The one thing I would add is that this has been something that has really, especially during the, I don't know how many people on the call were so excited for November 3rd to come, election day to come and pass. But I remember leading up to it, and you know, there's so much negativity in the world, so much you know, talking down and these very polarizing views. And I remember one of the thoughts that crossed my mind, I'll never forget. I was communicating with someone from, he's indigenous from lower 48, and he was talking, you know, we had asked if, you know, what would you do if you had an opportunity to meet with someone that had really opposing views. And you know, without giving out too many names, you know, he did say, he's like, I would use the opportunity to educate. And I've always remember that conversation when we're working with others and we're in relationship with them, knowing that even though we have opposite side views or different values, for me, I choose love. And, you know, not only the way that I'm showing up in the world, but also what I'm conveying on Facebook. And, you know, I'm human, I'm going to make mistakes. I might, you know, if there are posts that trigger a knee-jerk reaction, I, even to this day, it's a constant reminder, like, am I coming from a place of love, or am I showing up, you know, from a place of being offended? And I wanted to share that experience because even today, when we're living in a world where, you know, Western versus traditional, for me, it's always a good reminder that I'm coming from a place of love. And, you know, I would say an extension of that, knowing that, you know, we may be, you know, in many of the rooms that we walk into, we may be one of the only Indigenous peoples in that room. And I love what Barbara Blake has said before, you know, we, by the fact of us just being in that room, we're changing the dynamic. And so knowing that that's an opportunity, knowing that we are a part of our community, that we are representing our community in that light. And so not wasting that opportunity. And so for me, this is something that I constantly, daily remind myself, am I coming from a place of love? Am I leading with love, as Valerie Davidson always says? And so thank you for sharing this.
Thank you for sharing that, Emily. I really appreciate that. Choose your words wisely. You cannot take back what is said. Be respectful of all people. And I already mentioned that. Say kind words to other people and lift them up. there was when I have a conflict with somebody or somebody says hurtful things to me, I like to give myself a timeout and walk away because I'm afraid that I'm going to say something I don't mean. There was a time when somebody was saying hurtful things to me and mean things to me, and I just walked away quietly. And they came after me and kind of yelling at me and saying, I'm talking to you, and told me that I was expected to stop. I paused, took a deep breath, turned around, and I said, I currently have nothing to say. When I come up with something else to say, then I will come speak to you about it. And another time at the Heritage Center, I was eating seal meat for lunch, and this was many years ago, maybe 13, 12 years ago. One of my coworkers walked in who was not exposed to seal meat, obviously, made a comment and said, oh my gosh, what are you eating that looks so nasty? And I chose not to respond to that. And I just stayed quiet and ate the rest of my seal meat. And another person walked in and basically said the same thing. By that time, I decided that I needed to say something, but I had to think about what I was going to say. So when I thought about what to say, when things like this occur, I like to say in my mind, what would my grandfather do, or what would he say? And so I turned around and looked at both of them and I said, if my grandfather were here, he would tell you, if you have nothing nice to say, you keep it to yourself. I had nothing nice to say. There was times that you brought lunch with you that didn't look appealing to me. I had nothing nice to say about your lunch, so I kept it to myself. Then I turned around and ate the rest of my seal meat. So you have to be very kind with your words and be careful of what you say, because some things that you say may not seem hurtful to you, but can be hurtful or embarrassing to the people you're speaking to. Emily, is there anything you want to add to that one?
No, that's beautiful. Thank you, Yaari.
Thank you. Put good energy into everything you do. Like when you work, you go to school, when you're cooking, when you're taking care of your family, when you're gathering plants, berries, or whatever you're gathering, hunting. And when you think of people, think good thoughts, because it is a form of prayer. My grandfather used to talk about many years ago when I was growing up. Basically, he said to never practice using karma or wishing bad things on people. He would say not to have bad thoughts against people or not to say bad things about them, because words can travel and that it can hurt them or make them sick. So with my son, when he fell off a cliff 180 feet, when Creator spoke to me, Creator told me that one of my son's duties was to teach the younger hunters about how to make hunting tools by putting good energy into the work that he does, because the animals could feel my son's energy. And so you ever walk into a room and you suddenly feel depression or you suddenly feel a headache and you know it doesn't belong to you? If that has happened to you, that means you're picking up on somebody else's energy. And that's why it's so important to put good energy into everything you do. So when I make my salves, when I'm working on my plant medicine, I like to pray and meditate and cleanse my spirit before I put my hands on it or put my work into it, because I want to make sure that the people who use my plant and use my salve are going to feel that healing energy. And so all summer long, I grew, I decided to naturally let plants grow in my yard to see what grows. So they didn't mow the lawn over here in front of my door. And when I looked at everything, I was like, oh my gosh, there's all kinds of plant medicine that grows in my yard. And so Every morning before I went to work, I made sure to pause and acknowledge the plants and speak to them and give them good energy. And so I like to practice that because it's very important to give positive energy to other people and to the work you do, because that energy is going to be passed on to other people. Emily, is there anything you want to add?
I would just add that this is something that I try to do constantly, especially with family all over the United States, in rural Alaska. You know, I think sometimes we feel in certain cases like you're helpless or powerless, just, you know, things that are outside our control. And I know for me, I really try to uplift my family, my relatives. I pray for them. And, I really do think, putting that good energy into it and putting that out. Something else, I guess I would say on the opposite side of that is my husband and I, especially when it comes to our kids, we won't even put it into words. He stops me or I'll stop him and I'll say, don't even put that out into the universe, because we know the power of our words. And, our mind is very powerful, and, you could use it for good, but we have to be very careful not to speak things into the universe. And that's something that that Ma Cheney once told me, that there are certain things that we will not talk about. You don't want that out there. And that's something that's always been a good reminder for me, that being just very aware of the words that I'm not only sharing with my children, but how I'm lifting other people up mentally or how I'm speaking of others. So thank you for sharing this one, Yaari.
Thank you. Practice spirituality in the form of song, dance, prayer, healing, and connection to Creator. Spirituality to me is having a relationship with Mother Earth, Mother Nature, animals, people, ancestors, and Creator. When I think about spirituality, the first thing I always think about is Creator. I think about our ancestors. I think about our spirit helpers. Whether people realize that or not, our ancestors and even our spirit helpers do guide us and teach us along the way. And sometimes they show me things that I need to do or the messages that I need to send out. So religion is man-made. To me, it's very condensed. Spirituality is much greater than religion, and it's something our ancestors have practiced for many, many generations. And if you look at that picture to the left, this Sanighmelnguq was made by my friend Asi Kayakayuk from Chafornek or Chafakanak. This is the eye of awareness. I couldn't tell you the entire story about the eye of awareness like he could. And maybe if you want to learn more about it, you can get in touch with Asi and he'll tell you more about it. But from what I learned, this was used for spiritual purposes. When the Central Yupik Jupik and the Jupik people would dance in the Kazakh, they would have the Sanighmelnguq suspended over the ceiling, and there would be a string, and there would be an individual who would pull on the string to make the Sanighmelnguq move to the beat of the drum. So that's the way I understand it, and that's the way I learned it working at the Heritage Center. Emily, is there anything you want to add to this?
Yeah, I'll quickly share a story. Part of being on my journey, reconnecting to the community and learning, like I said, every day, one of my, I guess part of my learning journey is making the mistakes. And I actually was thinking about this teaching this morning. Several years ago, I was working at First Alaskans, and we were able to, someone had donated a seal for our Elders and Youth Conference. And I remember I had to drive, transport the seal. And I remember just making just really insensitive comments about the seal. And, there's no justification. And I remember my brother Dewey just really from a place of love, he really educated me and he talked to me about this value, and it's always stayed with me. And I wanted to share that with everyone because, when we think about this, when, other, youth or even adults who, make insensitive comments, know that, the responsibility that we have once we, if we're living these values, we know them to educate others. And for me, it's always been something that has really impacted me. And I've really tried to uphold this value and share with others that, our animals, they do have spirits, and we need to speak with them with love and care. And, so I wanted to share that experience that, part of my learning journey is that I have made mistakes, and there are people in the community who have really educated and taught me the right way. And so I don't know if Dewey is on the line, but it's been something that's always stayed with me.
I really like that a lot. Thank you so much.
Was that Dewey?
Yeah.
Hi, Dewey.
Way to go, crew. I really am enjoying your stories and your sharing. That's it.
Thank you. Igamsi. One thing I also wanted to add, Mother Nature, my grandfather especially would teach me never to complain about the weather, the rain, the cold, the wind. I remember when the earthquake happened, November of 2018, I saw lots of jokes about the earthquake on Facebook, and it made me think about my grandfather. And I told my husband that when it comes to Mother Nature, there's certain things that we're not supposed to talk about, make fun of, or complain about. And so when you see all these jokes on Facebook about the earthquake, it can come back to you. It can come back to you when the next earthquake hits. So you have to be careful of what you put out there. So I try my best to remember never to complain about the cold, when it's snowing a lot outside, rain, the wind. And so my grandfather used to tell me that Mother Nature is much greater than we are, and it is out of our control. I just wanted to add that. Everything is related and everything is connected. It has a spirit, and I already touched on this a little bit. But when my grandfather told me that everything has a spirit, I did not understand what he meant by that until I started to practice traditional healing. And when I started to experience having visions and connecting with spirits, I realized this is exactly what my grandfather was talking about. He's right. Everything is alive. Everything has a spirit. There's a tree at the Heritage Center around the lake, a very specific tree. When I'm going around the lake to do a tour or just going for a walk, I like to put my hands on the tree because the tree is taking my stress away and giving me good energy. It speaks to my spirit and takes my negative energy away. There was another time I was walking around the lake at the Heritage Center, and I heard Creator speak to me and say, acknowledge a plant. So I thought, okay, I don't question Creator. If he tells me to do something, I do it without questioning. So I'm walking around the lake and I noticed a lone flower. So I decided to bend over and I connected to the spirit of the flower and I spoke to the flower. The very first thing it said to me was, I am so glad it's raining today. Don't forget to drink your water today. And don't forget that water is the most powerful source. Money does not have power like water does. It cannot do what water can do. It only buys. So I thanked the flower for teaching me a lesson and I went on my way. And that's what I mean by everything has a spirit. You just have to learn how to connect with it and communicate with it. I've received messages from the fog. I've received messages from the rain, the mountain. Everything is alive. Everything has a spirit. The ocean is alive. The grass is alive. When I see the grass in my visions, I learned that the grass represents our ancestors. So when I see the grass in my visions, they look so healthy and green and tall and they wave back and forth so gracefully. So I always thank the grass that represents our ancestors for being there with me. So that's what I wanted to share with everything has a spirit. Anything you want to add to this, Emily?
No, that one was good. Thank you.
Thank you. Lead by example. Our children learn by watching. Teach them that we are all equal. When I think about my grandfather, that's one thing that he taught me and was very strict about. He instilled in me that I should never look down on people because we are all equal. He would tell me that no one is better than you or bigger than you or vice versa. And so I want to add, when I watch Emily at the Heritage Center, when I think about this value, she's one of the first people that I think about because she certainly leads by example. I don't feel like she doesn't tell us what to do. She doesn't, she doesn't act like a boss. She acts like a team player. She asks for our input and our insight, and she asks us what we think, and she makes sure that we are part of the decision making. And I really loved how this year she included our young interns in strategic planning, and that sent a very powerful message to me. And it made me feel so emotional when I saw that, because we are all equal. You can even learn from your kids or your teenagers, people younger than you. You just have to treat them as if they are one of you. When before the pandemic, I used to volunteer at McLaughlin Youth Center, and the girls there showed me a lot of respect. One day when I came in, I would teach them the values by sharing stories, by sharing beliefs, traditions, and through skin stitching. And one day when I was leaving, one of the staff members stopped me and asked me, "How do you do it?" I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "The kids always look forward to the days you're coming. They're always really excited when you're coming, and they show you a lot of respect and kindness. How do you do it?" I said, "I come in as a human being. I don't come in as a job title. I come in as if I'm one of them, and I make sure that I don't look down at them because we are all equal." So that was my message to that young man that works there. And I sure miss those kids at McLaughlin, so I can't wait until the pandemic is over. Emily, is there anything you want to add to this?
Yes, and I'll quickly share because I know we only have a couple more minutes. It's about 12:45, so just a quick time check. But I want to say thank you for your kind words. One of the things that I've learned here at the Heritage Center is that our youth are not only resilient. I have learned so much from them. And it was probably one of the most powerful experiences I've had is having our youth in our strategic planning. And it's interesting because for 21 years, we've said, youth is it's a pillar of our work, our youth programming here, but they were never a part of our strategic planning. And, when we invited them to be part of it, I don't want to say I was surprised to hear what they had to say, because it's not surprising. Our youth are beautiful, they're strong, they're resilient. And what we really wanted to put this into action, put this value into action. And I think, some of the outcomes from that have really not only benefited the Heritage Center, but they really benefited our community. And seeing a lot of, our social media is youth led. And, one thing I'm really, really proud of our youth is, they're stepping into their leadership. And that's something that I've learned, is that our youth, I've been taught that I cannot empower our youth. Our youth already have the leadership in them. And so all I'm doing is just giving them, creating an opportunity or creating a space for them to step into what they already have. And, it's been an honor for me. And, I'll quickly share that, the youth that I have the opportunity to work to work with here, I'm learning from them, and I've been very open about my journey. And recently, and I've shared this with Kelsey, you know, we had a dinner, and we were able, you know, growing up, I never thought I was going to be able to have my first dance because I wasn't raised in my community, and I always thought that that was something that I would never be able to experience. And the team here and our youth, you know, one of our youth, you know, he wrote a song and he gifted it to me. And I'm really excited and I'm proud to share that I am going to be doing a first dance in the spring. And our youth is really at the center of that, working with our youth. And so I really want to share with everyone that my journey of healing and reconnecting our youth, you know, are at the center for my experience. And I guess in another vein, you know, my daughter, many of you know my daughter's, you know, I'm learning from my daughter. My daughter is very active in the LGBTQ community, and I would be lying if I said, you know, you know, I didn't have her future already laid out when I had her. And you know, so for my journey, learning from my daughter, we can learn a lot from our youth as well as our elders. And it's just such a good reminder for us as leaders in the community and at organizations. We need to constantly help create spaces for them to contribute to our community in a way that they want to, not how we want them to. So thank you, Yaari.
Thank you. I really like that a lot. So since we're running kind of low on time, I'm gonna go through the rest of them quickly. I don't have a whole lot of them left. Work together with cooperation, for we cannot live without each other. Even if we don't like our neighbors, there will come a time when we need each other. One thing I want to share very quickly is I really like what I overheard my oldest son telling his younger brothers. My son told my younger sons, he said, there will come a time when you don't like your neighbors and you don't get along with them, that you're going to have to come together and work together in unity, because we cannot do the work alone. He was talking about whale hunting, how we have to put our personal feelings aside for one another or for other people to work together in unity, because when you're in a whale hunt, your crew cannot do it alone. It takes a whole entire village or other crews to help with a whale catch. So I wanted to share that very quickly. I'm going to move along. I think this is my last one. We are one in unity with our people, ancestors, the animals, and Mother Earth, which is tied to the things I talked about already previously. Is that my last one? Almost then. Treat the animals with respect. They give us many gifts for survival. Share with others and don't waste. And I'm really grateful for what Emily shared earlier about the seal the story that she shared with us. And then one of my greatest things is, oh my gosh, I love elders so very much. I highly respect them. When I know I'm about to speak in front of elders, I get super nervous. I don't ever get nervous when I'm speaking in front of other elders, but other people, but when it comes to speaking in front of Alaskan Native elders, I get super duper nervous. And my husband asked me, why do you get nervous? I don't know. I just don't want to disappoint them. I want to make them proud and make sure that I'm teaching correctly the things that I learned from them. So it's very important for us to listen to our elders because they have so much more experience than we do. They have more knowledge and wisdom. In my eyes, my grandfather had a doctorate degree in philosophy. So this one is my last one. Emily, is there any others that you'd like to share?
No, I just want to say thank you again to Native Peoples Action for this opportunity. I know for myself, you know, when I talk about my values and how I'm trying to live them every day, you know, something that I would just end with that I want to share with everyone is, you know, I know, as a human being, as an Indigenous woman, I know that I'm going to fail. I'm going to fail every day. I'm going to fail as a leader. I'm going to make mistakes. I might, say something insensitive. And, as a Yupik woman wanting to live in truth, I make it an effort to really to apologize and to make it right. And, one thing I would just encourage everyone is that no matter where you're at in your journey and you're trying to reconnect or you're trying to really live your values every day, know that give yourself grace, and, tomorrow is a new day, and just make that commitment. I was sharing with Yaari this morning, for me, I have a vision board, and I've created a vision board for myself. And, when we think from a Western sense, it's like, oh, okay, health. And, I want to lose 10 pounds. And there might be superficial like goals, but for me, I've created a vision board for myself. And I've also, when we think of the concept of mentoring, I not only do I have professional mentors, I work with elders, and I have in my elders in my life that I really lean on as, not only elders, but really my cultural teachers and mentors. Dr. John, I just had a meeting with her this morning, and, I could go on, but I think as Indigenous people, when we're living in a Western society, knowing that there are going to be time and time again where you're going to have this understanding of a notion, whether if it's leadership or values, but we also have our Indigenous ways of knowing and teaching. And I would just encourage you, no matter where you are, reach out to the Alaskan Native Heritage Center. If you want to learn more about it, Yaari, myself, Cheyenne Beatty, we are here. This is a safe place of learning, and it's a place of healing. And I, again, just want to say thank you so much for having us. And I'm happy to answer any questions regarding the work that we're doing here at the Heritage Center, or other questions regarding how we're living our cultural values every day.
Thank you for that, Emily. And the last thing I want to say is yesterday, one of the things I learned from an elder, and I really, really like what he said. His name is Doug Modig. And during a meeting, he says, involve Indigenous ways of doing things, use traditional Native thoughts. When he said that, that really spoke to me loud and clear. So I just had to share what he said yesterday. Thank you, Emily, for co-sharing with me today. I really enjoyed it. And thank you to Native People's Action for inviting us to share. I had a really good time, and I could feel the presence of my grandparents and my ancestors behind me. So thank you guys very much. I'll stop the share.
Wow, I just want to say, Anabasit Koyana, you guys did such an excellent job tag teaming and sharing this knowledge together. Yaari, I felt like your grandpa was just in this space with us, and I'm so grateful for you to share these sacred teachings and to pass along that knowledge for us. So, Koyana and Emily, thank you so much for sharing your experiences and your truths and being vulnerable, and even sharing about times when you've made mistakes and how you've learned from them. That's such an important thing for us to be able to do. And part of that act of shedding that shame that you started with. And I saw some really positive comments in the chat box that I think people really resonated with that. And I feel like the two of you, the combination of just the experience and the wisdom and the values that you brought to this space was just really beautifully done. And Dewey commented on getting misty-eyed. I felt the same way. So I'm so grateful for you guys, and really thank you from the bottom of my heart for sharing this time with us. And I also want to acknowledge and thank everybody for the active chat session and for sharing about who you are, where you come from, what brought you into this space. We forgot to mention that in the beginning. We always like to invite people, because it's this hour goes by so quickly, but we want to invite your voices and your experience into the space too. We always invite everybody to share their intros in the chat. So I just want to say thank you for those of you who did that, and offer the opportunity now for folks who didn't to feel free to use that chat space to share. I really love reading everything in here. Rochelle?
Yeah, I just wanted to add to that what Lena was saying and just say Kuyana, Masit Cho to both of you. I was really feeling that, and that traditional knowledge is so important, and I'm so happy to have a space like this where we can come together and share this knowledge and be our true selves as Indigenous people, and also to see each other. It's such strength in our collective togetherness, and I just just bringing us together is just so amazing. And so I'm really grateful and thankful for having you here as our guests and everyone else here that's joined us. It's really created this space today, and I'm thankful for that. And I just wanted to open it up. We do have a few minutes before we're closing, and so I wanted to have a moment for any other comments or questions that anyone else might want to have or to share today. So if anyone wants to ask any questions, feel free to use the chat or to go ahead and jump on, turn your video on and go ahead and ask a question or just say hi. So we have a few minutes for that. I see some waving.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Thank you, Guyana, for sharing this wisdom that really, I was taking so many notes. I was having a hard time keeping up, actually, because I felt like there was so much valuable content. And yeah, so I'm a school social worker here in Good News Bay, and I've noticed that after school, the kids, we haven't, obviously with COVID, it's been very hard, but I'm really looking at youth programming and how we can best support our children and incorporate elders. I am new to the community, but I just wanted to put that out there, and I'm wondering if I could maybe share my email, if we could potentially brainstorm. I definitely want to hear ideas at some point.
Yeah, please feel free to send your email in the chat, or I'll put our organizational email on too, and I can connect you.
Wonderful. I just put it in. Yeah, I'm with LKSD. So yeah, thank you all for sharing, and I look forward to continuing to learn.
Awesome, Masit, for that question. And in our chat, you'll see Lena has shared her email, info@nativepeoplesaction.org, and Kelsey has mentioned this video that's being recorded will be shared on our YouTube, our Facebook, and our website. So any other questions or comments? Hi, Janelle.
Hi, thank you for the wonderful presentation. I just wanted to clarify, did you say that the video recording is going to be accessible on social media?
Yeah, we'll be on our Facebook, and we'll also share it on our website and YouTube page.
Okay, excellent. I definitely want to watch it again. I'm multitasking at the moment, but I certainly enjoyed it. Thank you.
Yeah, and you can actually find all of the recordings of all of the wellness events we've done so far. I want to say this is our 14th or maybe early teens. We've done a lot, so all of those will be available. And I wanted to do one more quick plug because I heard Yaari say about how she puts really good intentions and love and care into the medicine that she makes. And I'm a huge fan of her medicine. I use her salves all the time, and we're just like rubbing ourselves with it all throughout the day, especially in winter. And Yaari, I wanted to ask if it would be okay if I put the link to your website in the chat in case people are interested in learning more about your medicine or purchasing some of your medicine.
Yes, you can share that. And on my website, it also, I talked about how the plant is gathered and what I practice when I'm making the medicine. So you can share that. Thank you. And thank you all for your beautiful comments and for being here. And I also thank the Nanaina people for allowing us to live here on their land. I always tell my kids, we are just guests here. This is not our homeland, but we are guests.
Quiana, any more questions or comments?
I think we've got time for about one more before we close out. Anybody else?
Hi, this is Tara. I'm so glad to be here with you guys. And what an amazing presentation. I learned so much today, and I want to say thank you so much for that, because I'm about to do, I'm working on my character defects in one of my well-variety programs for a 12-step program. And it talks about doing a ceremony of being mindful of doing tobacco prayer ties. And so by listening to what you're teaching us, it really brought clarity for me about how ceremonies and the intention, what you put into it. And then also, I'm really grateful for that, because what it did for me, you actually helped me just slow down and just appreciate this process that I'm about to enter. And then also have that special ceremony of where I put all my character defects in each tobacco tie, and then I go before a fire and I go ahead and burn it, and so that I'm able to release it. So I just want to say thank you for your wonderful presentation and for me to hear your words so that my spirit can slow down. So thank you so much.
Well, I'll just say thank you again to Yaari and Emily for joining us today, and for everybody else who joined in, and for folks who are going to be watching this recording later who couldn't make it today. We are kicking back off this event as a regular series again, and so we invite you to join us next week. Rochelle, do you want to say a little bit about that before we sign off?
Sure, yeah. So next Thursday, we're going to have the Alaskan Native birth workers. So we're super excited about that, and it'll be the same time next Thursday from 12 to 1. So don't forget to follow us on Facebook, and we'll be sharing the event there. So masicho to everyone, Quiana, and don't forget to share these great links that are on the chat.
Thank you so much. Take care. Have a good day.
Have a good rest of your day, everyone.
Bye.
Nanoya.
Bye.
Moon.